So we are going to come back here and answer the question, how do I create a new feature class? All right, so this is actually pretty straightforward. So let's go back to our demonstration map. You should have your edited watersheds within Bonner County that have SCAFIS locations in them that are reliable. And I think what we'll do is let's go ahead and trace around Lake Pend Oreille. And I think that'll be the new feature that we create just within this area, so that kind of pops out. So we're going to go to our catalog, and in order to create a new feature class, what you've got to do is first create a geodata space to put it in, or create the feature class, and then you're going to create the feature within it. So we're going to go to the geodatabase we want to store that in, which is going to be our demo geodatabase, and then we're going to go new feature class. And we'll call this Lake Pend Oreille. Oops, click in there. Lake Pend Oreille sections, because I'm going to do it in a couple sections, both within the watersheds and outside of them. So the name has to conform to all the naming standards, but the alias, also known as Lake, can be plain English. Okay. All right, it's going to be Polygon. You have other options here. We work with Polygon line and point for the work that we're doing. So it's a polygon. We are not working with route data. That would be M values. We're also not working with Z values. That's going to be if you have an elevation field, and we're not going to have an elevation field for this. And then I'm going to add the data set to the current map. And then this is where I get to add fields, and you've seen how we can add them kind of aftermarket once we've already built it, but we can add the fields right at the beginning as we're creating a feature class as well. So we got our object ID and shape ID. Those are just default. Then let's have area, and these all need to conform to naming standards. So this is area in acres, and it's not going to be text. It's going to be, we'll talk about this more a little bit in the workbook itself, but our we have a data type here, so our numbers can be, text is just stored as text. Our numbers are stored as short or long integers, float or double, or date. And so both of the integer options don't have the ability to store decimals, so none of your numbers would have decimals. Float and double can store decimals. Float takes less storage space than double. Short integer takes less storage space than long integer. For all our purposes, we're going to go ahead and use float here for this numeric data for the area in acres. And then let's see here. Maybe we'll get an area in square miles too. And we'll also do that as a float. All right, next. We need to create this in the same coordinate system as the map, because we're going to do some tracing. So that's WGS 1984. It's ugly. We'll definitely need to project it before we create a layout, but this will work for us. So next. These tolerances are just fine, so we don't need to worry about the tolerances for any of the work we're doing at this level. A resolution is also fine. Storage configuration is great, so we'll hit finish. And now we're like, okay, so where's Lake Pend Oreille on my map? Well, it's on the base map, right? But it's not anywhere because you haven't created it yet. You've just created a feature class to put it in, and you can see the alias show up here. So our next piece that we have to do is we need to go ahead and trace it out. So we'll trace the different pieces of the lake, and that's going to take a little bit of time. So I'll probably show you the beginning and like show you the ending, but I probably won't record the whole time. So what we'll need to do is we'll select that puppy. I'm going to just save things just because I'm going to start doing something big. I usually save before I do anything big. I'm on edit. I'm going to say create, and let's work on our editing here. So I'm going to make it so just Lake Pend Oreille in sections is editable. Then I'll go back here, create, and Lake Pend Oreille in sections. And this gives me some default tools here. When I'm done clicking around a polygon, I can click yes. I can do curves and arcs this way, different kind of shapes. I can do geometric intersections with corners that way. I can run freehand or click around here. So I will probably start with just this kind of tracing. I'm going to say that Dover is kind of the end of the lake, so you can see that there's, right, where do you go into the Pend Oreille River and from that. But I'll go ahead and start in here from this corner in Sandpoint. Boop. Come here. Boop. Oh, I just you can hit escape if you want to get rid of what you've got. So I will start in here. Come on. I'm just reacting too quickly with my clicks here. Come on. Okay. Patience, grasshopper. Oh, it's snapping is getting to me, so I'm going to turn snapping off here. Oh, come on. Okay. Come on. I'm not sure why this is being finicky. Well, oh, there we're starting, but it is kind of just grabbing into there. Oh, it's just snapping to the edges of things that it sees along here. I'm going to hit escape, and I want to get rid of that. Maybe I'll just use this line tool. That seems safer to click around with for at least the purposes of what I'm doing. And then you have to decide, right, how persnickety in particular you're going to be. I'll hold down C when I want to pan. And I'm going to take myself, make this polygon to this point at Dover, and I'll call that the end of the lake. Boop. Come back along the edge here. One thing I should have done before I started this create is I've got an opaque symbol here, which makes it difficult to work with because I can't see what's underneath it. Before I do anything else, any more of these, I'll change myself to like a hollow symbol, and that'll make things a little bit easier. Alright, let's see here. There's the long bridge. Yeah, it's hard to create a new polygon when you're I guess it's somewhat transparent, but it's still kind of a pain. Alright, now I double click to end, and now I've just got this selected. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So you saw that I could double click to end. You can also click down here to finish your sketch. I'm going to save all those edits. And the next piece, I'll show you like one more piece or part of a piece, and then I'll let you have some quiet to finish up. So then the next piece will be like this entire body of the lake, and then this will be the part that's outside of our focus area, so outside of Bonner County, and also outside of, and also outside of our watersheds. So, and then there's this big one this big one to trace is just the body. So go ahead and trace this one. Boop, ba-doop, ba-doop. And of course, the closer I zoom in, oh, you know what? I just escape, discard. I just tracing the wrong thing. I wanted to trace this. All right, here we go again. second section. I'll go ahead and pause this so you guys can click on your own around the main body of the lake. Alright, sheesh, that took a little while, didn't it? Okay, but now we've got, that one's still selected. If I clear my selections, and I've got, I changed that to just a black outline, but why don't we change it to something like a bright, deep blue outline, something like that. That's, well, maybe that's a little obnoxious. Like that. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that's kind of a nice lake outline color. What I haven't done yet is go into the attribute table and do any editing there. So I'm going to right click, come into the attribute table, and now I've got the standard, the standard listings here. These, because this is in a geographic coordinate system, these are going to pretty much be meaningless. And so what I'm going to do, they're going to be in like degrees, and it just, yeah, meaningless. So I'm going to go in here and I'll do a calculate geometry. And this area in acres is going to be area. We'll keep it geodesic, and then the area unit is going to be acres. Yes. Let's see. Well, let's go with international acres, and it'll go with the default coordinate system there. And then the area in square miles. Go here. Calculate geometry. We'll run the same thing, but we'll do it in square statute miles, square international, square feet. There we go. Okay. There, and so we have the 3 main polygons of the lake. And in fact, I think I'd like to add like some names here. So let's go ahead and add, just call it like name, and it'll be a text. So that's fine to just keep it the same name. And it's not going to be long, it's going to be a text. Okay, give me a second, I gotta log myself back in. Alright, too long at the computer today. Alright, let's get back to what we were doing here. So that's going to be a name, it's going to be a text field. I'm going to hit save over here to save that change here. So this is my fields, view, and I can close that out. But now my attribute, I'm going to have a name here. And this first polygon, let's go ahead and select it by hitting that gray square right next to it. And zoom out. That first one is, what's a good name for that? I could call it the West Arm Sandpoint to Dover or something like that. Okay. So that'll keep that. And then let's see, the 2 is going to be that smaller one. Come here. Down here, I'm going to call that the South Arm by Bayview. South Arm by Bayview. Right, and then I'll call this one the Main Lake. Alright, and so the Main Lake is going to be it's going to be within our within the Huck 12 there, so that'll help me remember. I'm going to clear that there, and let's see here. So now if we wanted to, we could symbolize this in sections, right? So symbology here, rather than single symbol, I could give it unique values. We gotta get the right field here. We could use the field name, and then we could format all symbols and make them hollow, so that they, let's see, let's just use one of these. Alright, and then from this one, we'll give it, okay, so that's hollow, 2 point, that's going to stand out. And now we can change each of these. First, I'm not going to show all other values because we don't have any other values. And then this one can get a color. We'll do them in shades of blue. one can get a color. And our last option can also get a color. Nice deep one. Let's see. Okay. Oh, huh. That's weird. Our field is name. Yep. Huh. It's got numbers for that. Let's see. Every now and again we get some weird greeble. Okay, name. Let's save this. Maybe it's because I hadn't saved all my edits. That is possible, right? Let's go back here to symbology. I have a feeling this is my own individual mistake, and it's not going to be you guys's. Okay, Lake Pend Oreille in sections, unique values. The field is going to be name. Remove all. Oh, okay. I guess maybe I just had to add them back in. Okay, so now okay. Let's see how this works. Does that give us? Oh, this is behaving kind of funny. Add unlisted values. Let's just add all the values. Okay, all right. Okay, so they were, yeah. And now we need to just adjust everybody again. So format all symbols. 2 point. All right, now we can give them the colors we wanted to. Alright, there we go. Now we've symbolized the new feature class that we made. That should hide. So we've got these segments here, and I can use them. I will probably use them in the next demonstration to do something kind of fun, like maybe cut that area out. Because it's such a large lake, it really inflates the area that you think that watershed is. And I mean, the lake is part of the watershed, but it doesn't contribute. It's not the land that's contributing potential pollutants to the tailed frogs' habitat and whatnot. So it's better if we don't consider it to be habitat, because they are not a lake frog; they are a stream frog, and little streams found through the area. So there's a little something. Hopefully you enjoyed getting into just a topic that's a little bit different than the utilities data we've been looking at with roads and culverts, and that's great and interesting too, but sometimes if you had an interest in wildlife and watersheds, there's something just a little bit more to chew on there. Let's take a look back at our workbook. How do I create a new feature class? Choose the geodatabase. To create it in, right click on the geodatabase, say, we always use, I forget the name until I'm using it. We use, new feature class. Okay. So that goes in there. Choose feature class. Choose a name, choose an alias. Yes, choose the feature geometry. We worked with Polygon today. We added the fields for our attribute table, which were just a couple area ones. If you're tracing a feature on your map, use the coordinate system of the map to create your new feature class. Those defaults were fine, and then we finished and added our new feature class to the contents. Will you see anything new on your map now? No, because you haven't actually created it. You just made a feature class to put the new feature in. And so once you've created it, you can actually follow the instructions for how do I add new features to an existing feature class, and that's where we were at the beginning of this section. And then we walked through calculate. Let's see, we walked through calculate geometry. There's our units of measurement. Okay, and that's just some of the fields you'll see as you go through creating a feature class. And then we talked about short integer, long integer, float, and double. So in general, we're not dealing with huge data sets for this class. When you can get by with float or short integer, do, because they're going to take up less space. And float's going to be when you need decimals, and integers, short integer, is just when you're dealing with fractional values, or in the case, oftentimes, like agencies will have a code, like a number that stands for something, and for those you can just use short integer as well, because it's not going to have a decimal. So if there's like a code for Colbert condition, poor, poor, moderate, good, excellent, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's where you would code something, or you'd enter it as a short integer. When setting up a quantitative numeric field, select a data type that works for the information you'd like to store and display. Note that only float and double can store decimals. Okay, how do I add an attribute to an existing feature class? We also did that. We're going to open the attribute table and choose the add field, the add button. Fields view will disappear. Determine the name, alias, data type, and whether you want the field to be visible in the attribute table. And you can also reorder fields there by dragging them around. So if you can click there and drag up or down if you want them to be in a different order, to appear in a different order in your attribute table. Okay, we are almost done. Our last part for this section of the workbook, we're going to talk about metadata, adding it and editing it. So I'll be back for that shortly.